All right. And good day, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles. Hi, I'm your host, Oliver Blue, and I am delighted to be your temporary guide and teacher and coach and advocate. Um, I'm delighted to be your brother. I'm delighted to be yourself. And today we're going to be venturing into another workbook lesson out of A Course in Miracles, workbook lesson 314. Just a reminder that we are in the section that is addressing the subject of what is the last judgment, and we have uh, gained a tremendous amount of understanding thus far in this section. Just as a review, we talked about the last judgment or being connected with the idea of the second coming, and we had lumped those two ideas together because that's the way it's basically been presented down through history. That's the way it's currently kind of presented uh, from religious perspectives. But the Course in Miracle, as it always does, it has an idea that is so consistent with the very foundation of what the Course is communicating to us, and that is in an all-encompassing statement. We understand that nothing real can be threatened. There is no threat to reality. There is no threat to reality. Reality remains as it always has been. And so the foundation for all of the Course is based on that idea that nothing real can be threatened. That means that reality has always remained unjaded or unaffected by anything that has ever happened in time and space. Basically, it says the experience of time and space is a temporary experience. It's not an eternal experience, and it has no ability to change what remains the same. It has absolutely no ability to change what remains the same. That which is real cannot be threatened, meaning it can't be changed or altered. It can't be changed or altered. So the infinite source of all life, the infinite source of all reality, reality itself, can't be threatened, can't be changed, cannot be altered. And it is our understanding that in our true identity, in our true essence, that we are not separate, but we are one with that reality. And so if we are one with that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is infinite, that which is love, then that means that in our true essence, we can't be altered or changed or threatened. So that tells me that our who we are, what we are, remains as it always were. Like the Course says, that we remain as we have been created. And that the essence of who we are is not something that is made from something else, but the essence of who we are is that we are creative beings not made from something else, but created with the same and as the same as the one reality itself. So the whole idea of separation, the whole idea of individuation or division or separation is totally antithetical to the idea of reality. That's why they call this world, it's a temporary world. It's a temporary experience. It's not even real. That's why you've heard it said that the world is an illusion. And that's not to say that it is bad, but we have to understand that in reality, the world is no more than a false perception or a false projection that comes from a mind that has given over its awakened consciousness to a state of sleep so that it can play with the idea of separation. And so the foundation is what? Who we are has never been threatened. Who we are. I mean, we have written hundreds of thousands of millions of books about the separation. We've written all kind of literature and psychology and philosophy and science and religion about the separation. And we can write, and we're still writing books about the separation. But because we write books about them, that doesn't make it real. That doesn't make it true. It's just an opinion. And when that opinion does not line up with what reality says, then that opinion really doesn't have any power of authority to threaten what reality is. Therefore, who we are as the creations of the one creator, who we are as the creations of God, we remain as we've been created. We remain as these holy, innocent, pure, eternal, infinite beings, appearing as beings, but we are the one being that God is. All the time, having this seemingly separate experience that has no capacity to change anything. So when it's all said and done in a person's life, ultimately they haven't changed reality. They have even aligned themselves with reality in life, or they have gone through life resisting the reality and making a different reality that has its basis in separation, and one have their experience that include the things that we see in life that are not very pleasant, suffering. And suffering takes so many different forms. But we can categorize all of it under suffering. When we walk in a false, out of alignment with, and out of integrity, and out of harmony with who we really are as these as the express image of the one life, the one love, the one being that exists. When we walk out of harmony and integrity with that, that's what suffering is. But the moment that we take our will and our willingness to discover and to self-discover and to rediscover and to inquire and get an insight into our true identity, and then we align our thinking and our perception, which will impact our feelings and our emotions, and ultimately influence our actions to all be in alignment with the reality of our infinite self, our impersonal and self-aware self. Then and only then will we really experience this peace, this joy, this tranquility, this this unity of oneness that we have with God and all humanity and all living things. And that our life now becomes indeed like this bright light of the world. Like our brother said, we are the light of the world. When we are in harmony, when we are in alignment, when we are in integrity with our true identity, when we embrace the reality that we are what God is and God is what we are, and that our innocence is intact, our purity is intact, our infinite eternal nature is intact, therein lies the experience of the peace of God that we all desire. And the other half of that all-encompassing summary of the Course in Miracles is that which is not real does not exist in reality. And we know that these body experiences, this body self, this body mind self is not, or I could say for the most part, the body self and all of the perceptions about it that are not in alignment with truth. They are temporal. It's a temporary experience. It's not permanent. And so that is the foundation for the Course. And so based on that, it is impossible for there to be a separation. Therefore, it's impossible for there to be a rejoining. It is possible for there to be a judgment. How can that which is perfect be judged? How can reality be judged? When in reality is all there is. God is, and there is nothing else. And so because we know that we exist, we're 100% sure of being aware and conscious of a self that we are. And when we come to discover that this one self is the one self or the one life that we all share, then it could only conclude that we are indeed one with God, have equality with God. We are of the God nature. We are of the God kind. We are in the God class. We share the same being that God is. And so with that, the last judgment and the second coming are ideas based on a assessment that which is temporary can change that which is permanent, and it cannot. So therefore we remain as God created us. Therefore in reality there is no second or third or fourth or fifth coming. There's only the one, because it's never been altered or changed. In reality there's nothing to judge. Why? Because there's only one. There's only the one. And so as we started this section with the question of what is the last judgment, the conversation moved to it moved or elevated to the idea that God's final judgment has laid to rest any idea of a last judgment or a second coming. It says God's final judgment is as merciful as every step in his appointed plan to bless his creation, which you are his creation. I am his creation. All humanity is God's creation. And call his creation to return to the eternal peace that God shares with his creation. Be not afraid of love, for love is what you are. Be not afraid of your equality. Be not afraid of your innocence. Be not afraid of your purity, your wholeness. Be not afraid of your equality. Be not afraid of love. Be not afraid of God. Ultimately, be not afraid of your true self. When we dream in sleeping dreams at night, we dream of something else. And most dreams are terrifying because we're dreaming of what? Something else. But those dreams that we dream of something else, they don't change our waking self. They don't change. When you awake from those dreams, you realize that none of those dreams change anything in your wakened self, your human wakened self. Likewise, the dream that humanity has dreamed from a very long ancient time of an idea of separation, which is impossible. Separation means that we can change and alter what God created. It's impossible. But when we have dreamed this ancient dream of separation from God and from each other and all living things, that dream does not alter reality when we wake up. We realize that it was just another level of dreaming. And that we can forgive the dream and the dreamer of that dream, because it's not real, and it's so that therefore it cannot threaten reality. So in conclusion to this groundwork that I just laid, what God created, which is his very own self, and called it the I am. It called it the consciousness and the awareness of the infinite, which includes all that God is in his extension of itself. It remains unchanged. You remain unchanged. Your origin, your birth, your creation cannot be altered by a world made from a false idea and a belief in separation. Because it's not real. It's temporary. How can that which is temporal change that which is infinite? It's impossible. It's impossible. Like Jesus said to Nicodemus, you must be born again, but you can't not go back into your mama's womb. That's impossible. You can't go back into your mama's womb. Once you're out, you're out. Likewise, once we were created by God to be holy and without blame before him in love, when we were created by God as its very own self, its very own nature, as having equality with God, we can't alter that. We can't change it. So all of the drama and the trauma and the tragedies and all of the things in history that did not align with this reality, that did not represent this truth and this reality, was only contributing to keeping the collective asleep and unaware and not experiencing the love that they are, the love that we share, but experiencing what the wisdom book calls what? Torment. It says fear has torment. And this fear was a result of a false belief in a false self and a false idea. The Course in Miracles calls it a tiny mad idea. It's tiny and it's mad. In fact, it said it is preposterous for us to think that we can alter ourselves from what God created. I like what Paul said in 1st or 2nd Corinthians. It says the foolish things of God confounds the wise of this world. The ideals that this world has conditioned us in and educated us in and indoctrinated us in. He said the foolish things of this world or the wisdom of this world. They call it the wisdom of this world. It cannot alter even the foolish things of God. Let alone the high-end stuff. And so God's final judgment is as merciful as every step in his appointed plan to bless his creation and to call his creation to return to the eternal place that God shares with his creation, what God shares with you. That there's only one reality, and God is our reality. So there's a call that has gone out for all the ones that are asleep and believe in separation to return home. It's a prodigal call. Or, like they have a recall in the automobile industry where they discover that there is a defect caused by something that got out of alignment in the production process, and they have the recall, and every one of those vehicles have to come back. Well, this call that God is communicating to all of us from within to return or to turn away from our false belief, to turn away from our limiting beliefs, to turn away from the wisdom of this world. And to return to the place that we have never left. Because this prodigal journey that we've all been on, it's a journey without a distance. Why? You cannot separate from your origins. Ideas cannot leave their source. So it's impossible for us to ever be separated from our Creator. So there's a call to return to the eternal peace that we share. So he says, be not afraid of love. There's a call to love. Be not afraid to love, for it alone can heal all sorrow and wipe away all tears, and gently waken from our dream of pain, whom God acknowledges that we are His. Be not afraid of this. Fear not. Salvation, which is merely God's promise that all humanity will eventually wake up to the knowledge of the truth of who they are. And He said, this salvation plan of God asks us to give this love that we share a welcome. And the world awaits our glad acceptance, which will set the world free. And like what I said, what is the world? But a false idea or a false belief or a false perception or a false projection that can only happen in dreams of separation. So when we talk about the world, I mean, the first thought comes to the carnal mind is what? Oh, the earth and the stars and the moon and the ocean. You know, we just think natural. We're natural men, can only think naturally. But you're not a mere natural man or woman. Your nature is not birth and death. In your reality, your nature is life only. So what we have taught to be birth and death, it doesn't even exist. Jesus proved that to us. And then He said, it is finished. You no longer have to fear death. He said that was the master fear, but you don't have to fear it anymore. He said, when that which is not real appear to have no more life or no more energy, He said, that is not death. He said, that's a dream of death. It's not death. When one have an experience of being born as this individual self, separated from everything in a perceptual world, He said, that's not birth. He said, that's an idea of separation that needs to be recalled. That needs to be recalled and replaced with the idea of reality, the idea of oneness. And the world awaits glad acceptance that it will be made free. Why? Because this whole idea of the world that we live in and those that live in it being imprisoned in a no-win situation is not a God idea. But that idea gets replaced with the reality that nothing has been altered. And it is in that revelation, it's in the acceptance of that revelation that all the world goes free. And so this is God's final judgment. This is God's final judgment, not the last judgment, not the second coming, but this is God's final judgment. That what God created before the world even could be a dream experience one could have before the foundation of the world or time and space. It says, that which God created, which are you and me, are still His holy creation. Notice now, holy. That which God created is holy because God is holy. That's why He says, the wisdom book would say, be holy as what I am, because you can't be anything else. You can't change yourself. Your holiness had nothing to do with what you can or can't do here on this planet. It says, for we are still forever innocent. This is the last judgment. And he said, this is God's final judgment. In other words, when something is final, it's over. It's over. It doesn't matter what has gone before. When the final judgment has been rendered, it's done. And we need to accept God's final judgment. And God's final judgment is the fact that we are the holy creation of God, that we are forever innocent, that we are forever loving and forever pure and forever loved. That we are as limited as God is. That we are as limitless as God is, meaning that we're what? We have no limits. We're infinite in our nature. We're infinite in our essence. We're infinite. There's no beginning and there's no end to us. So birth and death is not an idea in our reality. This is your final judgment. And we are completely changeless and forever pure. Just think, if we held this image of ourselves that is in alignment with this final judgment, not only will the world be set free, but all humanity will be awakened and enlightened to the oneness that we share. And the world would have no purpose. The idea of a false self would no longer have a purpose. That's why if anything is going to happen that might seem to be such a dramatic supernatural occurrence, it's going to be the disappearance of this universe. The disappearance of the UI, because it serves no more purpose. When we wake up to the truth, this world serves no more purpose. Absolutely none. Can God create something that is as needy as this world? Can God create something that is as filled with lack and scarcity as this world? Needy as these bodies? So we're completely changeless and we're completely pure. This is our final judgment. And therefore, in conclusion, awaken and return to me. Awaken my child and return to me. How do we awaken, you say? How do we become enlightened to this, Brother Oliver? Well, the Course makes it very simple. It is just a recognition. It comes through an insight into who we really are. It's but a recognition. And that insight is within all of us. It's not out there. What's out there is just a projection of what's been in here. So we don't want to fix out there. We want to fix what's in here, because when this is fixed, what's in here, and when I point here, I'm not talking about my head or my brain. This is just a symbolic. I'm talking about when we turn within into the timeless and formless, endless, infinite reality of our existence, and get an insight into that, which is but a recognition of our true identity. That is the only thing that can be. That's the only real solution. It's called Christ vision. It's called letting go of what we have made and embracing of what that which is. Like Scripture says, look not at the things that are seen, for they are temporary and they're subject to change. But look at the things that are not seen. What are you talking about? Which are eternal, see? Which are infinite. What are the things that are not seen? The things that are not seen by the natural eye or to the natural-minded man is his true identity. But it's present. It's everywhere present. And so the final judgment is therefore awaken and return to me, because there's nothing else. There is nothing else. I am your Father and you are my creation. Why? Because there's nothing else. There's nowhere to go. Like the disciples asked Jesus, where will we go? Where will we go? You're the one that have the keys to eternal life. What are you talking about? What are the keys? This revelation knowledge. This awareness that we're never and ever, that we can never ever be disconnected from the infinite source of life, but that we're the very expression of that infinite source of life. We're one with it, and we can never be without it. And that is the conclusion. I am your source, and you are what I am, because I extended my very own self in the creation process. Not separated myself, but extended myself. That means I'm still connected to what I extend. I am what I extend. So that's why the Course says over and over and over again, we remain as God created us. John the Revelator, he got a revelation of this in 1 John. When he said, as he is, so are we in this world. We're the same. As God is, so are we. As we are, so is God. That's why Jesus said, with boldness and with confidence, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. I and the Father are one. That's the ultimate reality. That is your ultimate reality. And when you accept and embrace this as your ultimate reality, you have returned home where you never left. And so we're going to jump into workbook lesson 314 now that we have once again established what the final judgment is, so that we can all now exhale. Because that idea of a second coming and that idea of a final judgment where we could be taken off into a eternal torture chamber. We can let that idea go free because it's impossible. And it's impossible for love to even think of it. To even think. Can you imagine the purity, the complete love that God is? to even stoop to that kind of thought process. It never made sense to me. I just didn't have the evidence. I didn't have the insight to validate that that was impossible, that something was wrong with that. It's like there's something wrong with a lot of things in this world. There's something wrong with a lot of the ideas that have been laid upon humanity to keep us in prison, separated, seeing ourselves as inferior, seeing ourselves as separated, seeing ourselves as different, just based on physical attributes. That is so low vibrational. When all the time we can look in the eyes of any human being and know that there is a oneness there that we share. We all know we breathe the same air. We drink the same water. We know that we live in a space that is held together by something that is much grander than we can imagine. What is the glue that holds all of this together? We know without a shadow of a doubt that we exist, we are conscious, and that we are aware. We know this. We have just been void of the information or the revelation to validate our true identity. But it's here. It's available. It's happening in a grand way. That's why we call it the grand awakening, the grand rising. Whereas humanity is what? Waking up one by one, by one, by one, by one. And so in workbook lesson 314, this is all going to make a whole lot of sense now. It's going to be easy to say, yeah, I see now. The lesson for the day is I seek for a future that is different from the past. Why? Because I got a revelation. I have an insight. I have a vision. I have Christ's vision now. I understand the oneness that we share. I understand the impossibility of separation. I understand that I'm not a body. I'm free. I remain as God created me. As a bodiless, as a formless and timeless being. I'm the very being that God is. The same consciousness that God is, and the same awareness that God is, I am. I am. And so this future that we seek is different than the past. But as we get into the lesson, because we already been taught that in reality, there's only the present. There is no past nor future. So this is just a play on words. So let's see what it says. It says, from my new perception. Perception basically means from my new point of view. From this understanding from the mind of God, from this understanding from the mind of Christ. Now that I'm seeing things from God's perspective, that I'm seeing things from this perspective that God calls his creation as Christ. It's called Christ vision, or Christ consciousness. I mean, we've heard the different terminologies. It doesn't matter what we call it. The reality of it is, it's the reality. It doesn't matter what you call a child in terms of the name that we lay upon them. It becomes just an earthly government name. Because we cannot define what God created. Only the Creator can define what God created. Only the Creator can name what he has created. And our checking out if something else worked doesn't change the reality. If we're coming up with a different idea does not align or is in harmony or integrity with the reality of the truth, try as we may, we don't change reality. And so from this new perception of the world, there comes a future very different than our past, because we have this new perception, this Christ vision. We're seeing through the eyes of God. And so now that we're seeing through the eyes of God, there comes a future that is very different than what we have experienced. The future now is recognized as but an extension of the present, because we realize that there is no future, there is no past. That which we call the past, it's just it was just an extension of the present. That which we call in the future, it's just an extension of the present. Because only reality is in the present. In thy presence, there fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. Not in the future, not in the past, but in the present, because the present moment is all there is. This one holy instant, this one shining moment is all that there is. This is the only thing that you can do anything about. This is the only thing that we can do anything about, and that is the present moment. How are we thinking? How are we perceiving in this present moment? That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters, because how we are thinking in this present moment, how we are perceiving in this present moment will become an extension. And we call it the future, but it's not really the future. The future is no more than the present moment. Your future is no more than the present moment that is extended. And so the future now is recognized as but an extension of this present moment. Past mistakes can cast no shadows on this present moment, because the past doesn't exist. Only the present exists. And we know how we get so stuck in the past, and how we allow the illusion of the past to infiltrate the present moment, and it's impossible. It's ludicrous for us to do that. And so past mistakes cannot cast a shadow on our presence, so that fear has lost its idols and its images, and being formless without form, and being without form, it has no effect. The past has no effect on you in truth, in reality. Absolutely none. Absolutely zero effect on you in truth. But when we don't walk in the truth, we don't walk in the light, when we don't walk in the mind of God, when we don't embrace the mind of Christ, then illusions and idols and images seem so real, like dreams. But here, it has no effect. Death will not claim our future now. Why? Because there's no death in the present. You remember, your present is just an extension. Your future is just an extension of the present. So how are you thinking in this present moment? So fear has lost all of its idols, all of its images that we have made. Death will not claim the future now. It's impossible. For life is now its goal. The goal of now, the goal of this present moment is life and not death. And all the needed means are happily provided to ensure that life and life alone is the goal. Of the future. Who can grieve or suffer when the present has been freed, extending its security and peace into a quiet future filled with joy? In thy presence, there's fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. That comes through the awareness of Christ's vision, of what is true, of what is real, of what cannot be threatened, of what cannot be altered or changed. Your true reality, your true identity. Mine, yours, and everyone. So who can grieve or who can suffer when the present has been freed, extending its security and its peace into a quiet future that is filled with joy? So, in conclusion of this workbook lesson 314, we seek a future that is different from the past. Why? Because it has to be different from the past. And the future is no more than an extension of this present moment. This present moment that, like we said, in the final judgment, where our innocence, our purity, our love, our wholeness, our completeness, our oneness with God is all there is. And there can't be any death in that future. There can't be any death in that present. And so, Father, we were mistaken in the past, the way we thought. We were mistaken. We made a mistake. We didn't sin. We made a mistake. We made an error that led to a falling asleep. But nothing changed. Nothing changed. Man changed his mind. Man entertained a tiny mind idea, but it didn't change reality. It didn't change who God created man at its core and at its essence. And so we were mistaken in the past, and we choose to use the present to be free. Now do we leave the future in your reality, in your hand, in your truth, leaving behind our past mistakes. We just made an error. We recognize we made an error. Errors are made to be what? Corrected. We make the correction. This whole project that we've been on for the last 380 or 90 days since January of 2022, doing these workbook lessons, it's basically what? A course in correction. That's what a course in miracle is. It's a course correction. A course correction. No big deal. We made a big deal out of it. We made a big deal out of an idea, of a tiny mad idea. We strained at a net and swallowed a whole goat. when we embraced a false idea about ourselves and about humanity and about God and God's intention and about our creation. And so we put it all in God's hand because we know that in this now moment we are free because of the final judgment. And what that final judgment has said about all of us, about our innocence, about our purity, about our loveliness, about our infinitude, about our eternalness. Leaving behind our past mistakes. Ensure that God will keep his present promises and guide the future in the light of these holy promises that God has promised to himself, that God, when he could find no greater, he swore by himself, saying, blessing, he has blessed us, saying, blessing, he has blessed us. Meaning that what? In creation, God extended himself and called himself us. Meaning that what is in the creation is in the creator, and what is in the creator is in the creation. There is no difference. You are made in the imagination of God, and that can never be changed. God does not have a duplicitous mind. God is single one-mindedness. He's the Lord God, and he changes, or she changes, or it changes not. So you can be safe, and you can be certain, and you can be secure about who you are. You can walk in this day of judgment, which we just rendered. You can walk boldly in the day of judgment, which is right now. Confidence of who you are, knowing that you are sinless, and that you're guiltless, and that you're whole, and that you are infinite, and that you are impersonal, and that you are self-aware. And can't no one change that. Not even God. Not even God. But we are here to wake up and express our original self as love, and to help the whole world go free, and to wake up humanity from the jailhouse of being asleep. And so we are indeed the light of the world. All humanity, sleep or woke. Because in reality, being asleep is not a reality. It's only a tiny mad idea. There's only one idea. And you are that idea. You are a God idea. And we can't change it, no matter what we say or what we do or what we think. We can only dream and have a nightmare that is not so. But it is so. And so it is. Thank you for being here for Workbook Lesson 314. This has been a doozy of a lesson. You think this is something? We got 50 more lessons? I would say, yeah, 50 more lessons. You know what's going to happen between now and our last lesson? Just more of the same. More of the same revelation of our true self. More of the same. Because there's only the one. There's only the one, and you are that one. Thank you so much. We'll see you on tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.